Hello. As I'm not a medical doctor or professional in the field, please don't take any of this information for any medical advice. Don't use this information during emergencies for your physical health and for your mental health. This video is just to help expand your thinking patterns. I'm just speaking from what my truth feels like, but you can take this knowledge however you feel. Please enjoy this video, and I hope you take something beneficial out of it. Thank you. Enjoy. So I am going to talk about personality. I'm going to split this personality video thing into two separate videos. So there's really a lot of the theories I want to talk about. I want to just split into two, just so won't be too crazy, too long of a video. So the theories I'm going to talk about are the ones that I'm aware of and the ones that I have been taught and that I'm knowledgeable about. But as I talk about these theories, there are going to be there are other theories out there in the world that I'm probably not aware of, and that I'm not as educated on them. So I don't mention them in these videos, but I am going to mention the ones that are like main building blocks of like how the personality is formed and how we became to be and why we do things. So I hope you guys enjoy these two videos and that you guys take something out of it. So when I talk about these different types of theories, don't think it's either this or that it's like black and white. Each person's different, and then these theories are just great building blocks of how the personality is formed. There's no like set theory that determines why you're this and why you're that. It's just like you're a collaborative of theories basically, and that no theory set in stone that explains every theory or every personality trait and why. So just keep in mind that every theory is just a great building block to understand the personality. So the first video we're going to talk about is operant conditioning. So operant conditioning is associative learning through punishment or enforcement to help their change their behavior. So what I mean by reinforcement or punishment. So punishment, for example, it could be a positive punishment or a negative punishment. So the positive punishment, you're adding on to punishment if undesired behavior occurred. For example, if a child bullied another kid, let's say the principal makes that bully to participate in another activity like extracurricular to make them think about their actions, like they are now to help clean up the classroom 10 minutes after class time for every lesson they have. So you're adding on a task to punish that individual. Negative punishment is taking away something if a child does, or if someone does something that's not appealing. For example, if a child gets bad grades, or if they do something that's not desired behavior, then the parent can take away video game time, can take away TV time. So that's negative punishment. You're taking away something. For reinforcement, it's like the opposite. You're enforcing good behavior, which is actually proven to be more effective than punishment. So when you enforce good behavior, they're more intended to perform that good behavior than punishment. As if you're going to punish someone with their bad behavior, it's less effective. So with rewarding someone in reinforcement, let's say someone gets good grades, you're going to treat them with ice cream. So they're more inclined to get good grades because they like ice cream. So with operant conditioning, it's lifelong. We always conditioning ourselves. It's not just in the childhood. We can always operant condition ourselves. Let's say your boss goes up to you and says, you've been late 15 minutes late every day for this past week. If you do it one more time, you're fired. So you're going to change your behavior to come back to go to work earlier. So even in any time frame within life, you can always condition your mind and change your behavior. So with operant conditioning, it's lifelong. And like when that's lifelong, it just helps shapes the personality as you are shaped and behave in certain ways through punishment or reinforcement. So operant conditioning was founded by like B.F. Skinner. He actually created the Skinner box, where he just put a rat in it, and then when the rat first came in the box, it just like aimlessly ran around the box like trying to figure out a way out. During the time like this rat was like aimlessly trying to get out, it actually presses a lever on accident, and when that lever was pressed, food would pour into like his cage, like a little bit of food. So like that would be like reward because you pressed that lever. So like a couple times, the rat was like, okay, I got food, whatever, and then just ran around again aimlessly, and then did it again on accident, and then more food came out. Eventually the rat caught on like, oh, if I press this lever, I'm going to get some food. So it's like, it's rewarding the rat for pressing this lever. So that's how operant conditioning was formed. It's just like the theory of we can learn And what we learn, if we like the consequence, we will like the outcome, we're going to tend to do it more often than so. So I'm going to talk about another theory that was developed by psychologist Pavlov. So Pavlov came up with classical conditioning. So classical conditioning is kind of almost similar with operant conditioning, but with classical conditioning, it's with your learning behaviors of a couple, like two stimuli that are not relevant to each other. So within this theory, there are four aspects. There's conditioned behavior, unconditioned stimuli, and conditioned stimuli. So for an example, so let's say a dog salivates when they see food. So that salivation is automatic. So that's unconditioned behavior. And that food, you're going to automatically salivate. So that food is the unconditioned stimuli. Stimuli. So as that's automatic behavior and automatic response, we can condition that dog to present a conditioned behavior. So for example, let's say there's a light bulb. And then every time you present that food to that dog and then immediately turn on that light, that dog is going to immediately salivate because the food's there. So if you do this a couple of times, if you keep presenting the food, keep turning on the light, and then have the dog salivate, and then take away the food, turn off the light, that dog is going to start to condition of that irrelevant stimuli, which is the light bulb. So eventually, with this conditioned process, if you keep doing this multiple times, you don't have to present the food, but when you turn on the light alone, that dog is going to immediately salivate because its mind's conditioned. Oh, that light turns on when food is presented, so I'm going to salivate. Like the dog is just immediately salivating because that's what his mind's conditioned. So that is then comes to a conditioned behavior is when they salivate, and that conditioned stimuli is that light bulb turning on, even without the food presented. So the reason why I brought up Pavlov's classical conditioning is because it also helps form your personality throughout life. It could be any time from birth to death, any point. For example, it's like how traumas are formed. So let's say you're driving down a road and then a deer crosses your path and you crash into it. So the event of you crashing is like a unconditioned stimuli, and like the fear and the emotions you feel during that crash is the unconditioned behavior. So that is like an incident right there. So let's say a year later happened, like a year later you're fine, like everything's fine, but you're walking around in the forest a year later, and then you're just doing your thing, minding your own business, and then you see a deer. And that just seeing that deer brings up all of these emotions you felt, like fear, scare, like all these emotions you felt in the accident. So in that incident, that deer becomes the conditioned stimuli in your behavior. Just seeing that deer becomes the conditioned behavior. So you associated that deer with that accident, with that event, because you hit a deer. So with that association, your brain kind of like connects the dots for you. And even though it's unconscious, like on an unconscious level, you just connect it, and then you start feeling these emotions, and like it's trauma, like you're traumatized from the event. So with that noted, I believe that classical conditioning is just throughout life. It helps shapes our personality, it helps shapes how we feel, why we feel, and it helps determines the behaviors that we behave and like why we behave in things. So the next theory I want to touch base on is the hierarchy of needs that was created by Abraham Maslow. So Abraham Maslow created like 5 hierarchy of needs that needs to be met, and the 5th one is actually the most desired one. So you're starting from the bottom, and then you're trying to meet every need, supposedly, to reach the top one, which is self-actualization. So before I go through this list of like the 5 hierarchy of needs, it's stated that you don't need to reach every single need 100% fully in order to move on to the next hierarchy of need. So you can still reach self-actualization, which is the most desired state of human being. You don't need to reach everything 100%. You can move on as life, it varies. Again, like it's not a cookie cutter theory, it's just a good building block to how the personality is formed. So the first hierarchy of need is psychological needs. So psychological needs is like the basic human needs to survive, such as food, clothing, air, warmth. For example, obviously you need those to live, but let's say you grew up or you have an apartment that's like kind of cold, or like just something that's like not met 100%, but you still have it because you need these at least like half of the percentage, like 50% to like move on, as this is like a livelihood. The second need on the hierarchy is called safety needs. So safety needs can be security, safety, financial security, anything that makes you feel safe as a human being. So when you feel safe, you kind of feel comfortable. I'm like, okay, I feel like I'm comfortable and I feel like I can move on with my life, like I got this settled down. But as we know, life, nothing is ever guaranteed, so that feeling can come and go, however, throughout life. Like, if you're financially safe right now, I don't want to jinx it, but like maybe next year, I don't know, like, you won't be financially safe, or there's a possibility you won't be financially safe your whole life. Maybe there's like a divorce that happens, or like if there's a house fire and everything's burnt down, you gotta start from scratch. So things can be easily taken away from you, but as things are taken away from you, could be taken away from you, you could still move on to the third need, which is love and belongingness. So with love and the belongingness need, it's about relationships. It's about like the friendships that you form around you, and just like feeling belonged. It's the emotional involvement, it's the commitment, it's intimate relationships. This helps you as a human being feel like involved in the world, feel like that they're needed and that they're important and that they have a purpose. But you don't need to be in a relationship to satisfy this hierarchy of need, like intimately. You can have friendships. Like, we're social beings, so as social beings, we do need to connect with one another. We do need that social interaction. But you don't need to need it fully. You don't need to have a partner. You don't need to have like close friends. Like, you do need friends and close friends, but you don't like have to worry about, okay, so if I don't have this and this and this, like everything, then I can't move on. You can still move on. It's just, it helps to have your close friends. It helps to have a healthy, intimate relationship. But you still carry on to the fourth need, which is esteem. So esteem is basically your self-worth, your accomplishments, and just your respect towards yourself. So basically, if you feel like you have low self-worth, it is going to be hard to move on in life, because like everything is based internally, like how you feel. So as you have confidence, as you have good self-worth and respect for yourself, you feel confident, you feel comfortable with yourself, you feel like you can take over the world. So as that you have that feeling, it's easier to move on to the fifth need, which is self-actualization. So self-actualization is like the best need you can meet completely as a human being. So as you reach self-actualization, it's actually your acceptance of yourself fully. You're accepting of your flaws, your acceptance of the things that you're good at, you're accepting yourself as a human being. You're actually comfortable with yourself through your struggles, through your good moments, through your successes. You can conquer anything with confidence. And then when a struggle does happen, you don't fear the struggle. You actually kind of not get excited, but you're like, you know what? I'm confident I can boost through that. I can like go through this, because you're confident in your capabilities. And with the capabilities, you know how you work, you know how you operate, you know your flaws, and then you know what you're good at. So with that, all that knowledge in your mind that you develop through the rest of your needs that you develop beforehand, all come reach to the top. And those are tools, building tools, that helps you be in self-actualization. So it is noted that not a lot of people actually reach self-actualization, as a lot of people, it's hard to meet self-actualization to meet every single need in the bottom. So below self-actualization, it's hard to meet every single need, as that's life struggles, like nothing's guaranteed. But as you can still reach self-actualization without meeting every single need, it's still a low amount of people to actually reach that top level. So the reason why I brought up the hierarchy of needs is because when we meet the needs, or try to meet the needs within the hierarchy, it shapes our personality. So for example, if you grew up in a house that had food, that had heating, and like you didn't need to worry about receiving these things, you're gonna think of the world as more pleasant. But if you grew up in a household that struggled to get food and struggled to get heating and so forth, you're gonna look at the world a little differently. Like, it's more challenging, the world is more difficult, and like just more of a struggle. So as you meet these needs, we have different experiences. That's just throughout life, there's different experiences. So as we meet these needs, it's going to shape our personality and how we view things, and how we behave in certain ways, and how we shape our beliefs and our opinions. So I decided to add that in here, as it helps, or it's a building block of our personality. So those are some of the theories that help shape the personality. As I split this whole video thing in 2 parts, my next part will be just explaining a little bit more theories that help shape the personality. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you guys in the next video.